everybody. How y'all doing tonight? All right, so a little bit about me. So if you're on Twitter, yeah, that's my avatar. Thanks, Base16, for making that for me. So my name is Foemat. I'm passionate about security, both physical and digital. I got a tongue-in-cheek mindset, right? Anybody that knows me knows that don't take me 100% serious. I just like to have a lot of fun. At the same time, I want to get points across. I want to do it a fun way. I love to learn new things, and even more so than things I'm already good at, or love doing things more than what I'm already good at. I attend a lot of local meetup groups. I love to chat about a lot of all things security. So feel free to say hey to me if you see me out and about. Grammar police hate me. If you have a problem with typos or miscapitalization, you might want to go check out one of the events downstairs. So I love shenanigans. And also, real quick, so the local meetup groups I go to is very similar to what F Noob said earlier. DC 919, 2600, Security Beers, Oak City Lock Sport, and a few others. So something else, real quick, public service announcement. Doxing is bad. So if you don't know what doxing is, that basically means, if somebody's using their handle, don't go out and start using their real name. At an event like this, I don't care if somebody calls me by my real name, right? But don't go on Twitter. If you know me, if I'm doing this talk under my handle, please don't go to my LinkedIn if we're on LinkedIn together and tag hey, great talk, and, links back. If I'm using my handle, might be a reason for it. Okay. So special thanks to Base16 for letting me borrow Ubertooth 1. My buddy John for letting me use a laptop, right? Not this one. And all of you that have encouraged and supported me on this journey. Oh, wrong way. I just bought this week. So disclaimer, I'm not a Bluetooth expert. Right? If you listen to the extract, grammar police still hate me even when I talk. The abstract. So I did this as a beginner, right? I did this because I want to learn Bluetooth. I want to mess with it. A lot of people don't talk about it around here. But as I started talking about the possibility of doing this, a lot of you in this local area said, hey, that would be awesome. I'd love to see this from a beginner standpoint. But I don't want to do it, and I don't have time to do it. So yeah, you go do it. So I'm doing it. Everybody says it. These are my opinions, not my employers. They may or may not know that I'm doing this tonight. That may or may not be why I'm saying don't dox me, bro. All right, so why am I doing this talk? I always had a big interest in Bluetooth. Some of this is due to my shenanigans and mind frame. Right? What could I do with Bluetooth that would be funny, but not necessarily destructive? I use a lot of Bluetooth connected devices. Everybody does. They're all over the place. I love to learn and figure out stuff. I felt there's a lack of Bluetooth talks at cons, or at least the ones that I visit. I have seen other cons that I'm not going to make it to. Somebody's talking about Bluetooth. I stay pretty local right now, so it's like, hey, I want some Bluetooth stuff. A lot of people seem to have an interest in this, especially in this particular talk, from what y'all told me. If you don't have an interest, you lied to me. And I wanted to step out of my comfort zone, right? I didn't want to come up here and talk about something that I truly knew about. Stuff that I know about, there's a lot of SMEs out there for it. There's talks about them all over the place. I didn't want to be just that, oh, here's another talk about I wanted something a little different. So, and then also Base16 was like, hey, Foemat, talk about a thing. I said, okay. So, a thing. So, step one, what tools are available? So, from a beginner noob mind frame, one of the first things I did is what we like to do, right? Let's see what Kali says. So, I pulled up Kali Linux. Just went to the favorites, went under wireless. Here's our Bluetooth. Okay, so we've got some options here. And then Google Play Store. let's see what Bluetooth type apps we can find out on Google Play. Step 2, research the tools. So if you do know me, you know there's going to be lots of panda crap going on here. There could be some literal panda crap. I don't know. It might be like a raffle later. So also wanted to say, I did not watch any videos from cons about Bluetooth talks. I did this on purpose. I did not want my talk to be influenced by somebody else's con talk. I've never watched a conference talk about Bluetooth, right? I hit the wrong button. When I grow up, I want to be an F noob. I'm going to start tonight by hitting the laser button instead of the next button. Oh, evidently that works. I think I'm becoming an F noob. All right. So what did you do to research this? I tried to focus on tutorials that are put out by the creators of the devices or creators of the tools. You know, doesn't mean that I didn't run into a couple where somebody else like me right now said, hey, I wanted to do this thing. This is how I did it. Sometimes I had to do that. Sometimes the creator, sometimes, I don't know what to even call that anymore. The manufacturer of this tool, whatever, developer, there we go. So sometimes the developers don't have that much about it. They're like, hey, here's a tool. This is what the tool can do. They may or may not even say how to install it. So if you don't have Kali, if it's not on Kali, good luck. Right? So in those cases, I might have read through a few other tutorials. I Googled the crap out of it. You know, I read through Twitter and through blog posts, and of course, dash help in Linux. It's a wonderful thing. So step 3, choose your weapons. Oh, I just thought somebody with a laser. We're going to have so much fun with this. Yeah, we saw that sticker somewhere, right? So Ryan may or may not have had anything to do with the fact that that same is a sticker on my laptop right now. Thanks, bruh. Love you. Woohoo. All right, so platforms. So I started this by using Kali Linux 2019 in VirtualBox, also Kali Linux on a bare metal laptop, and Raspbian and Stretch on a Raspberry Pi 3. So other hardware used, a Ubertooth 1, a WonderTooth 1, a Panda Nano Bluetooth adapter, and the crowbar from Half-Life 2. So software, I tried everything that's available on Kali. Then also for the phone, I decided to check out Ramble, and then the Ubertooth tools that are part of Ubertooth. So step 4, the test drive. You like that, right? So Ramble. Now this first picture is kind of poor, but it's a bad screenshot. That's just what the home screen looks like when you first open it up. So this is the app that's on the phone. You can get it from Google Play Store. I don't know if it's on Apple. I don't have an iPhone. All right, so one thing that I like about this is when you do a search, and you can see I redacted the crap out of this, but the details that you can get from devices. Now, it's not always going to give you the name of what it is. Just like anything when you're doing Bluetooth scanning, you'll get a lot of stuff that comes up and says no name. I picked this one just because it does have a name and it looks cool. So it's going to show you the MAC address. What I really love about this is this part. First seen, last seen, right? Now this particular device, I just saw it that day. But if it's a device that, let's say you go to a particular restaurant or you're just doing this at your house, it's a device that you've seen before. It's going to tell you the first time you saw it, could have been 2 or 3 months ago. And then it's going to show you something more, that moment when you last saw it. You can also go back through your history and look up stuff even when you're not running it. You can also do favorites. So I'd actually did a favorite on this one. So I can go back under my favorites, do a quick view and see it. Another thing that's really, really cool about this is the map feature, which that's where the most redactions are right here. So if you just touch this map, it's going to take you to this next page where you've got some options right here. So you got the markers, the heat map, and the satellite. So with the markers, it's going to kind of show you where it's seen that Bluetooth device. And this is not going to be 100% accurate. If you've done anything with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, anything with GPS, you know that this stuff is not going to be 100% on point. So You got to kind of look at it from that viewpoint. So let's change that from the markers to the heat map. You're going to see, in some cases, you actually get this little solid fluid line. You can see how shaky my hands are. I'm not an alcoholic, I promise. Right? So, well, let's check out the satellite view. I thought this was kind of cool, right? This is awesome for doing recon because it can help you kind of pinpoint where it was at when you saw it. So if you're going back later, and yeah, you've got the address, but yeah, it's just funner to see the pictures, right? So, and you can also have the heat map or the markers activated where you're on satellite view. So that was also pretty nice. Personally, I like the heat map better than the markers. I just think it looks more predator-like. Okay, so my opinions on Ramble. So it's simple and fun to use, right? It's cool for recon without detection because you're doing it from your phone. You don't have your laptop up when you're in the middle of a restaurant. If you wanted to recon a restaurant, not that I'm saying do stuff illegally, right? It's not perfect, but it is free. So it's not going to be the best scanner that you're going to find, but it's really fun to use, really simple to use. So definitely check it out. So next is the basic Linux Bluetooth commands. So this comes typically almost any Linux system. You may or may not have to install it, but I believe it's every one I've ever used, it's up there, right? Okay, so typically most all my experiences when doing anything Bluetooth on Linux, I usually have to run some commands to get Bluetooth up and running before your device will actually even be recognized. Okay, so for the service Bluetooth start, we'll actually start the service. Now I've also put in this last slide here. You don't have to use service Bluetooth start. You can also just type in etc int d Bluetooth, and then you can put start or stop or status there instead. It's for some people, it's easier to just remember service Bluetooth start, right? So then we've got HCI config. This displays your available adapters and which interface that adapter is on. So if you've got multiple adapters, you definitely want to do this. So you can see which is which. And then HCI config, then the interface and up. This enables that particular interface. Now, if you've got multiple interfaces and you only want to use one, it might be helpful in some cases to actually do this command with the other interface and say down. Because there's been times when I was doing some of this testing was even though I never told it to put it up, it was still picking that up and I didn't want that for a particular test I was doing. So it's kind of like, just extra noise. So just turn it off. So if you have multiple adapters and you only use one of them, I talked ahead of my slides. Y'all can see I don't always read from slides. These are bullet points so I don't forget stuff. Okay, so now for other commands, and these are still the commands that are basic with Linux, just not Kali in general. We're just not Kali, Linux in general, blah, whatever. So HCI tool scan. This performs a scan for Bluetooth devices and displays the MAC address and device name. L2 ping. So this is going to show the MAC address, or no, excuse me, you got to actually put the MAC address there. So L2 ping and then the MAC address. This performs ping to devices with a Bluetooth adapter. Then L2 ping MAC address -F. So this does a flood ping. I've kind of got some little cool ideas about that particular command. I might talk about that in a minute. And then you got SDP tool, browse, and MAC address. So this pulls additional information that's useful for retrieving the channels to connect to. So the cool thing about these commands and why you want to know them is you're going to find as you start using the other tools, you're going to need some of this information, right? You start looking at commands, it's going to like, hey, your options, you need to add the channel you're going to use this on. Okay, how do I get my channel? SDP tool. So these are great little basic commands. I suggest even if you don't have any special devices, play with them. All right, so let's try a demo here. And here's the best part, right? My demo is actually in Kali Linux. Luckily, this boots up fast in my VM. I was not very prepared. And I said it boots up fast, so it's taking forever. Do, 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 do. Oh, actually, let me do it like this. F doop, F doop, F doop. Let's just go on and move to Final Jeopardy. Put me out of my misery. This could be fun.
I'll take the rapist by 2,000.
There's so many things I want to say to the conversation going on over there.
Play your game, you will. It's similar to poker.
I'm a freaking mess. There we go. So this is a recorded demo, so you don't have to worry about your devices at this minute. I'm cheating a little bit here. Okay, so I'm about to play this. This is going to go kind of fast. If you want me to replay it, I'll do it a couple times. So this particular one is going to go over the flood ping. Sometimes I type slow. It's all good. Well, actually, I forgot. See, I didn't rewatch this recently. It's not going to make it any larger. Can y'all see that okay? Okay, so what I'm doing here is I just basically started the service like I spoke about, did the HCI config, and you'll see that there is multiple adapters on this device. And then now I'm doing the flood ping and watch this thing fly. So you'll see that flood ping goes really fast. Maybe I should have done a regular ping so I could see the difference between the two. Regular ping is just like if you're doing your normal ping for on the internet. You know, it's a typical ping. When you do a flood ping, that thing's flying. So I've kind of got some ideas in my head. And now when I say this, number one, remember, I am a noob. I'm a beginner at this. And I'm not going over is it practical versus is it possible? Because what I'm about to say, it might not be that very practical, but it's more about the possibility. So what if you use this command, you know, made a nice little script, and then you started pinging somebody's cell phone with the flood ping? Okay, now I will say my cell phone in testing, it would reset the connection, but what if your script restarted every now and then? And then what if you put this on, I don't know, like 20 Raspberry Pi Ws in a box, and that script's doing that over and over and over again? Goodbye battery life. You know, practical, maybe not. There could be other useful ways of, you know, DOSing somebody, but possible? I think so. So I may or may not try that later. We'll see what happens. Not later tonight, I promise. Not later this weekend. I don't have all the devices needed for that. I don't like trackpads.
That was cool. Right? Okay.
So a shout out to Smirker for sacrificing to the demo gods earlier, because that did actually work for me. So if everybody else's demos go bad, it's because I used up the power. So tools in Kali Linux, and I put 2019 here. I literally just installed for a lot of this. I reinstalled it. Now, one thing I want to mention, well, actually, I'm gonna get to that later. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So tools in Kali Linux, Blue Log. I found this to be great for doing site surveys, but it only really shows visible devices. So, if they're not displayed, showing as visible, you're not going to find hidden devices. So here's a few commands here. I'm not going to go too much in depth in this, but the options in this particular command will try to pull the manufacturer name, device name, and device class of any devices it finds, and it's going to put it in a log file. Now, I will say, typically, I love doing verbose mode. This particular tool, I found if you do it in verbose mode, it's not going to show you a lot of this information. It doesn't seem to pull the manufacturer information and throw it up on the screen. If you do it in a log file, you get a lot more information for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not the dev. I'm a noob. Okay, so Blue Ranger. So this is a script, and this kind of gets back to what I was saying earlier, about, hey, what if I did a script for the flood ping? So this is a script that uses the L2 ping command to determine the location of the device based off of link quality. So this was actually kind of cool to mess around with. It's very simple. You just do your blueranger.sh, put the interface in that you're going to use on your device, and a MAC address. I think this would be best on a portable device, so that way you could walk around. This could be great for finding a rogue device or trying to hunt down maybe somebody particular if you want to have some type of little Bluetooth games. We'll see, maybe a future event at a con. All right, so Bluesnarfs. So this can be used to view contacts, dial numbers, read SMS messages. Now, on this one, you're going to see I'm going to put vulnerable devices. I was not able to find a vulnerable device for this particular one. This particular options here, command and options, will display the first 20 contacts in the address book. And you can change that. You can put 1 through 100. You can put 20 through 41 if you wanted to kind of cycle through, do different things with it. You will need to use the SDP tool browse to find that channel like I was mentioning earlier, because you're going to need the channel for this. I personally, like I said here at the bottom, I've not found devices vulnerable to it. If anybody knows they have one that's vulnerable to it and wants to loan it out to me, of course, nothing that is vital to you. I don't want your regular cell phone, nothing with your data on it, personal data, unless you want to give me your personal data, I'll take it. So BT scanner. So this is a terminal-based GUI for doing recon. I'm not really a fan of this one. Maybe back in the day when I first started messing around with stuff like this, these things always first appealed to me. And I think that was that would mess with my head, because I'm like, oh, cool, it's a GUI. I'm a noob. I'm going to use a GUI. And then I would kind of get disappointed, because I'm like, I don't know what to do here. It's not like any other GUI I've ever seen before. And excuse me. So I felt like I was getting better and quicker results using Blue Log and using the HCI tool scan command. Still give it a try, because you might find it might work better for you, might work better on your devices. You might enjoy it better. Everybody's got their own thing, right? So Red Fang. So this is used to find non-discoverable Bluetooth devices by brute forcing the last 6 bytes of the MAC address. Fang-L. This option will show device manufacturer codes. Now, when I was doing this, their list that they had out there, it was a very short list. It just had, some popular device manufacturers out there, and not even some of the more popular ones that are going to be used nowadays. So hit the internet, Google, do a MAC address, MAC vendor lookup. That way you can find it. All right, so Fang-R, putting your address, those commands there. This will scan the specified MAC address range and then save the results to the desktop in a log file. So what I found in doing this is, if I was doing a range of 138 MAC addresses, and it was going to take between 15 to 20 minutes. I did that a couple of times, and it seemed to always be the same thing. I didn't find any hidden devices when I did this. but there just weren't really any around. And maybe I should have gone a little bit further and tried to hide devices. Maybe I was feeling lazy that day. Maybe that particular tool was done like last week when I did the test. I don't know. So spoof tooth. So this is an automated tool for cloning or spoofing Bluetooth devices. So this one's pretty cool because yes, there's manual ways that you can clone or spoof a device, right? You can change your stuff. There's manual ways to do it, but this is automated, right? This particular command that I've got here, this one will generate a random name and address and just put it right on the interface you specify, right? That's pretty cool. It does it for you. You don't have to try to generate a random one up here in your head. Then this other command here, spooftooth-I, your interface, and -S, this will scan devices within range, right? And then it'll give you a list with numbers, and you just pick which one that you want to clone, and it'll clone that for you automatically, right? So as you imagine, this would be great if you wanted to do man-in-the-middle attacks, or if you just wanted to do scans from a MAC address that's not actually your MAC address. I don't know why you'd want to do that, though. All right, so the Ubertooth one and the Wondertooth one. So real quick, just want to speak on the big difference between these. It's more or less the same device. The Wondertooth one is put out by another company. It is the Ubertooth one. They've made a few changes, what they consider to be upgrades to it. I started out using base 16's Ubertooth one, and because of some of the issues I'm going to talk about here in a minute, I said, well, the problems that I'm having, are they related just to the device? Would I have this same problems with a different device? So yeah, I've worked out the cache, went and got another device and decided with the Wondertooth one. Some of it was because for about maybe $5 or $10 more than the Ubertooth, it also came with an enclosure. So installation pain points. So I spent hours on 2 platforms using virtual machine and bare metal laptop. And I kept running into different issues, right? When I say I spent hours in the VM, I seriously created like 10 plus VMs, right? I did this on purpose. This was all in the name of you guys. I wanted to give you all as much research data in my head as I could. See, I love you too. I was running into problems in different spots every single time. Matter of fact, the first time I went through, I actually got, that was like one of the furthest runs that I got before I actually had success. All the other runs, I got stopped earlier in the process. Now, I'll admit some of the stops were because I was doing something very new, right? Like, oh, it's a syntax error. But then after I get past that, well, I just got stopped on the next step. So I'm not going to go into all the details about all the actual little problems that I had because they were random problems. I got stopped in different spots. There is one particular part that I'm going to go over here in a second. So most all the installation guides that I ran into, they were outdated, right? And you know, it's a common thing, right? There's always changes being made. So you go look at the installation guide, even the ones out on the GitHub for the developers, they're always outdated. So the big thing is go to the repository and check and see what the latest version is, right? Use that instead. You just have to change the path. If you're not sure how to use GitHub, don't feel bad. I still don't know if I know how to use GitHub. I wing it. I'm being serious, you know. I'm not a coder or developer, whatever you call yourselves, right? So installing Posad, as shown in all the guides that I saw, it fails, right? So what worked for me, and by the time people, if this video works, or if you decide to go try it, this might fail for you. So you might just have to basically Google how to install Posad. But what worked for me is pip install Posad 2. And here's the other funny thing too, where about the stuff being outdated. The command they were given wasn't even for Posad 2. It was just for Posad. However, their software now requires Posad 2. So when I first started this process, I could actually use their command to install Posad, right? It was installing, but I was getting errors because it wanted Posad 2. I'm like, guys, really? Okay, so your firmware version and the Ubertooth tools need to be the same version. So if if you go and install the latest version of software for the tools on your laptop, you got to make sure you've got the same firmware version from those tools updated. What I suggest doing, and I didn't put it right here directly, but if you use that Ubertooth util-v, right, you can only do this after you install it, but this will show the current version of firmware on your device. So be prepared, because I had a lot of problems updating firmware. I was just determined I was going to make it work. Don't be too proud if you're doing this and you cannot get your Ubertooth firmware to update. Just go find the same version that's currently on your Ubertooth just to get started, right? Maybe fight that battle a different day. Don't let it get you down to the point where you just put your Ubertooth to the side and you don't do it. If you're local to the area or even not local, feel free to hit me up. Right? If you're watching this video later, do not hit me up. I don't want 1 million people from the world pinging me. Maybe you can hit me up, I don't know. So anyway, if you're running into problems, feel free to reach out to me. If I don't respond back, that means 1 million people reached out to me and I exploded. So don't even attempt updating this firmware in a VM, right? If you're familiar with VMs, there's a lot of issues when it comes to doing anything with USB device adapters, right? You can run into a lot of issues. Now, with the way it works with the Ubertooth is it goes into a different mode, right? So it's kind of like almost you put a second device into your laptop. So if you even want to attempt doing a VM, you've got to create a different filter within Kali. So, and that's something like Kali within the VM. That's something I didn't go into detail here. Is you will most likely have to set up filters for your USB devices within VirtualBox. I'm not an expert on doing it, but it's not really hard. I'm mentioning that, and there's no pictures here, because I was able to figure it out quite easily. It's just under settings, you just hit an add button, you get a list to choose from. If you're not sure which device that you want to add, just add a filter for everyone in the list. It's not going to hurt, unless I put a USB device in your laptop and you're not looking. Okay. So if you don't have a bare metal system to install Kali on, what I found, so when I first did this and was trying to get the Ubertooth one that was loaned to me updated, and I'm glad I don't have long hair, because I would have pulled it out, right? If I wasn't going bald already, I would be bald now, because it was a nightmare. I didn't have a system I could just go and, wipe everything out on, put Kali on, or put any kind of Linux on to try. So I grabbed a USB device. Let's see if it's going to work in just a live USB. It worked. That was actually, of all the firmware updates I did, that was actually the quickest and most successful firmware update. I booted right up. No problems. Not one single issue. That was my first big success with the Ubertooth journey, was updating the firmware using a live boot USB. So take that for what you will. That does not mean it's going to be successful for you. So if you have a Raspberry Pi, that also worked for me. So when I did the firmware update, I did it a different way. I did it using the Raspberry Pi on my Wondertooth versus the Ubertooth. And I did it just to see, hey, oh yeah, I forgot I got a Raspberry Pi sitting over here. Let's try that. All right, so the path of no resistance. Like I said, I had a lot of problems. And what I was trying to do was find a path of least resistance. The Raspberry Pi 3, when I first booted that up, stuck the device in, started going through the tutorials, the install commands, minus having to change the Pi Side 2 installation process, I did not have a single problem. Now, granted, maybe it's just because I'd already failed like 100 other times previously, but I did not have a single problem. This was the first device I was able to get the Ubertooth to work on. I took my family out to Outback Steakhouse to celebrate that night. That is not a lie. Like, I literally did this, and my wife's like, what's for dinner tonight? And I'm like, oh, we're going to Outback. Daddy wants some coconut shrimp. So, 2 quick ways to test the install. So once it's installed, you want to make sure, is my device working? So you can do the Ubertooth /SpecAn. dash UI, right? And you can also do the Ubertooth RX. So the spectrum analyzer, when you run that command, this is going to pop up, right? You're going to see these lines just start going nuts, 100 miles an hour. So if you're seeing that happening, you know that it's working. Something else you can do, oh, actually, that's going to be a part of my demo. So for the next part, wish I had a little holder for this while I was using two hands. I know, right? Anybody that's talking after me, you just have to deal with the fact this has been in my armpit. You're welcome. Oh, shoot, that's Miss Gina.
There's enough alcohol around here.
You would think that I would have a way to actually clean that up, but I don't. Okay. Yeah, I already typoed it. That's the wrong password. I was like, wait a minute, I've not looked, this is actually what up there. All I'm saying is the person that's currently tripping me up will be, oh, damn it. We will be hanging out and drinking together later, so if somebody has a shake it, no, I wouldn't do that.
Tour, man, yeah.
Dave's not here, man. All right, so we'll claim that as my demo failure for the night, right? So now the demo guys can be nice to me. Okay, so this just a quick short demo to show what happens when you run the Ubertooth RX command. It's nothing fancy. I discovered this neat little, I don't even know how to say this, IC cinema, IC whatever, ASCII cinema. I was like, hey, this thing's kind of cool, so I'm just going to use it a few times. So once you start seeing this pop up, this is another sign that your Ubertooth is working. Right? It's not that much to it. It's just going through. This is actually looking for the lap or the lower address part. This is one way you can achieve that. You can use it for some of the other attacks or things that you can do within the Ubertooth, or you can also use it for other Cali tools. All right. I better hurry the hell up, huh? Okay. So now to capture packets. This is, the reason why I got into the Ubertooth is everybody's like, hey, this is how you can capture Bluetooth packets, right? So this the main thing I wanted to do here. This command here, Ubertooth, blah, 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 blah. So it's used to sniff for Bluetooth low energy packets in promiscuous mode and then save it to a PCAP file, right? So there are 3 flags for capturing packets to a PCAP file, the -R, -Q, and -C. You'll want to experiment with these, see what might work best for yourself or for the devices that you're currently doing at the time or the type of scans that the information you're looking for. All right, so with that being said, hang on. I actually have got another little demo. All right, so using that same command here, And what you're seeing right now, these are packets. So the Uber tooth, or in this case, I was actually using my Wonder tooth. The Wonder tooth was going through and it was actually capturing these packets. While this was going on, it was creating a PCAP file. I promise you, y'all saw this was a demo. I'm not capturing packets right now. And the reason I mentioned that is because this is the PCAP file that was created during this. So I'm just going to open this up real quick in Wireshark. I'm not going to try to explain anything that's in these files, mainly because I'm also a Wireshark noob. Right? But I just want to show like, hey, I did actually have success. I captured packets. There's some information. Something, blue side. Right? So we got a PCAP file. Right? Now, at this point in time, you really lose me, meaning I don't know this yet. This is something that I'm working towards. So one thing I'm hoping to achieve with this talk, if I get a good response, is I want to turn this into a series. I want to keep going further down the Bluetooth hole, right? I'm pushing myself to start, let's go a bit further. Let's learn more. So anybody here tonight that's an expert on any of the stuff that you're like, yeah, you need to do better here, please come talk to me. I'd love to sit down and chat with people, learn a little bit more about it, because I do want to do more talks. I do want to get more advanced with this. Okay, so any questions?
Do you have to use an adapter, or is there a way to scan using built-in radio?
So great question. You do not necessarily have to use an adapter. However, if you're doing it in a VM, you will need an adapter for it. From what I found and all my research, that was a combination of, just verifying that everybody else says, yeah, you need it. And then also I've tried it myself, right? Within the VM, it's just not going to pick up your internal adapter or your internal Bluetooth. So for Kali, you will need, or for Kali in a virtual box or VM machine, virtual machine, whatever, you will need an adapter for that. If you're doing it on a bare metal system, you will not. So you saw in the demo here earlier, if you might remember when I did the HCI config command, it found two interfaces, right? One was the embedded and the other was the adapter. Now, what I found on the bare metal system, that was awesomely donated to me, so I'm not going to complain too much about it. That Bluetooth adapter sucked. Like, it didn't see stuff when I literally put it on top of the laptop. Every now and then it would pick it up, and I'm like, yeah, this is no bueno. So that's when I went out and I got the particular adapter that I did. Don't take that to heart. Don't say, hey, I got to go get the same thing Foemat had. There are better adapters out there. I was in a pinch. I got that one because all the reviews said this definitely works with Kali, right? I wanted to make sure I could get something that worked with Kali, so I'm not delaying my research any further. So is that good?
Yeah.
All right. Yes. I did, and I had the same amount of problems. That was actually, and I thank you for asking that. That was one of the first things that I did. I had a problem with VirtualBox, so I was like, okay, let me try it in VMware. Now, disclaimer, the VMware was the free version of VMware Workstation Player. I don't know if that would work any different as you go to, I know a lot of people here have licenses for the much nicer versions. Maybe you'll have better success. Any more questions? Yes. What was the very last three words you said? If you're thinking the answer to that is yes, that means you understood that PCAP file better than I do. So, yeah, and yeah, you can do both Bluetooth and Bluetooth Low Energy. Yeah. All right. Now, somebody else had a hand up over here. Yes. I'm going to say that personally, I found much more success with using the adapter regardless of which one it was in. Because like I said, the bare metal that I had, that Bluetooth adapter sucked. It really did. I couldn't see anything. So I can't compare that if I had a system where it was actually working correctly. So I'm going to say my personal experience was adapter all the way. Now, and these adapters are not expensive. Regular Bluetooth adapters, you can find them $10 to $15 all day long. You know, if you wanted to go blow $30 on one, sure. But even that, I mean, yeah, it can be expensive for some people, but $30, it's a manageable thing, all right? All right, more questions? No? Yes, no?
One last question.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas for possible workaround with Pi-Side 2 instead of
I'm trying to make sure I understand what you're asking me.
You said you had to update to Pi-Side.
Okay. Right, and well, and the reason for that is they actually made a change within their tools. So if you wanted to work with the original Passad, you would need to use a younger version or earlier version of the Uber 2 tools. There's actually something that the developers did, whether it was intentional or not, where, you know, hey, it's got to have Passad 2. Yes.
Regarding the Pi-Side 2, particularly his question, a lot of Python packages tend to be named really weirdly, and what the actually did is they wanted you to install Pi-Site, but originally it was with the regular name Pi-Site without a 2 would have been like